Hey YouTube, Steve from Spire Agile, and this is the Agile Gardener. This channel is all about helping you with Agile, Lean and Flow, so if that's your bag, you've come to the right place. Now today, I'm talking about the much discussed and misunderstood Scrum Master role. So, what does a Scrum Master do and how do you become a great one? That's the eternal question, isn't it? I've been asked that question for what seems like forever. The Scrum Master role has been around for close to 25 years and I've been doing it for close to 20 myself, so you really would think by now it would be well understood, but sadly not. So why is that? Well, frankly, it's probably due to the name itself, Scrum Master. Most people will understand the Scrum part, but it's the second part, Master, that is unusual and probably causes the issue. It's not your typical corporate job title. So, Master. I guess that conjures up thoughts of someone who is very good at something. So, putting the two together, Scrum Master, would logically make you think that this role means that they are very good at Scrum. But it doesn't really convey what the role of a Scrum Master does. If you think about other role types, business analyst, Java developer, tester, it's more straightforward to understand what these roles entail. And I think that's why people get confused over what a Scrum Master actually does. It's often the reason you'll see the role name change to something like the dreaded Scrum Delivery Lead, because organisations have this need to label you in such a way that your role name essentially describes what you do and it's easier for them to measure. So, we've established that a Scrum Master is someone who is very good at Scrum. They're an expert. But what do they do? Well, we have the Scrum Guide, which gives us a bit more detail, but in my opinion, I'm not sure it's all that helpful. For example, the Scrum Guide says that a Scrum Master helps foster an environment where the product owner can create and prioritise a backlog and helps the team turn work into value using an empirical process during a sprint. Foster an environment. Turn work into value? But how? By magic? Look, to be honest, it simply lends weight to the view that a Scrum Master is some sort of mythical Agile Yoda. Now yes, Scrum is a lightweight framework. It doesn't give you the how, and that's good because it gives you the freedom, but it's not good in the context of actually understanding what a Scrum Master actually does. Now the Scrum Guide does go on to say that the Scrum Master helps the team understand Scrum as well as the wider organisation through training and coaching. So we have training and coaching on Scrum. That's a little bit better. We'll come back to that later. But then it says that a Scrum Master is a true leader who serves the team, coaching the team in self-management and cross-functionality. Okay, now for me, it's starting to get a little bit more vague again. And finally, it says that the Scrum Master causes the removal of impediments to the team's progress and ensures all events take place and kept within the time box. Aha, finally something more tangible and measurable, at least from a corporate viewpoint. And unfortunately, this is what gets the focus time and again within organisations, which is that a Scrum Master is there to facilitate all the Scrum ceremonies, run around chasing people up and fix problems. This is picked on because it's something corporates can relate to and understand. But on the face of it, just doing these two things doesn't require a lot of time. And let's face it, if this is all you had to do, then virtually anyone could do it, which really doesn't help because it devalues the Scrum Master role. So, organisations usually flesh it out with other activities that make sense to them. The three common ones are that they are made responsible for delivery and reporting, hence Scrum Delivery Lead. And then they're given 2 to 3 teams to Scrum Master, and lastly, they're made responsible for setting up and managing the Agile tool, which gave rise to the term Jira Monkey. Now, you could just go with this, turn that Scrum wheel, put in a mediocre performance, and kid yourself that you're a Scrum Master. But what if you actually want to make a difference? What if you want to be a great Scrum Master? What should you be doing then? Well, I was watching an episode of Your Daily Scrum on the Agile for Humans channel, link in the description below, and they talked about the Scrum Master having a guiding question that they need to answer each day, which is, what can I do to help the team deliver? And for me, this is the essence of what a Scrum Master does. They're there to help the team deliver value. So, what does that look like? Well, it's my personal view. I'm certainly not trying to reinvent the wheel, and if you're a Scrum Master, then you should be following the Scrum Guide. But the Scrum Guide mentions that the Scrum Master should be a true leader who serves the team. Now, it used to say is a servant leader, but it was rephrased in 2020, probably because servant leadership is not that well understood and adds more vagueness to the already vague Scrum Guide, in my opinion. So here's a question for you. Do you know what servant leadership is and why it's important? Now, in my opinion, you need to understand this first because if you truly want to help teams, then you need to start with this. Servant leadership is too long a topic to talk about here, but I've already done 3 videos on this, linked to the first one on screen now, so I'd urge you to watch them. And if you decide after watching them that servant leadership isn't for you, then in my humble opinion, neither is the Scrum Master role. Perhaps look at delivery lead roles instead. But for now, let's say that you understand servant leadership and you're a follower. Great, welcome brothers and sisters. So now what? Okay, so remember our guiding question. What can you do to help the team deliver value? So, first step, in order to help, you first need to understand what the issues are. And for me, this boils down to two key things: applying a quantitative and a qualitative approach. For the quantitative approach, you need to gather and analyse data, and finally propose changes that support your findings. And stay tuned to the end, as I've got an important warning for you regarding the quantitative approach, which I wouldn't want you to miss. Okay, for the quantitative approach, we need data. So what data are we talking about? I'm talking about cycle time, the time it takes to actually complete a story. You need to start capturing this information and then analysing it. You'll need to ensure that the team understand the workflow no matter what Agile tool you're using, and that you've got an agreed workflow state that you'll start monitoring from and end monitoring to. For example, it might be in progress to done, and you can see the example here in Jira. Now, we're not going to use the to-do as part of our cycle time in Sprint, because when a story is in this status, it's queued, ready to be picked up when we have capacity. You only want to monitor the time it actually takes from when you start work on the story to the point at which it's finished. Now, this also means that the team need to move their stories to the correct workflow state at the right time. And this is really important. But it's not your responsibility as Scrum Master to do this, it's the team's. But it is your responsibility to help them understand why they need to do this. The why is that by doing this, you'll be able to gather the data needed to understand how long it takes to deliver your work, the areas that need improvement, and ultimately so that you can accurately forecast the delivery of any piece of work, no matter its size. And ultimately stop fixed time, fixed scope work landing on you, reducing stress and increasing well-being. Now, once you have this, the next step is to analyse the data. What you need to do is calculate the 85th percentile of all previously completed stories. This will tell you how long it takes to complete any single story, no matter its size, 85% of the time. And with this data, you'll also be able to use Monte Carlo simulation to accurately forecast how long it will take to deliver 100, 1,000 or 10,000 stories. I've done a detailed video on exactly how to do this with an Excel template so that you can calculate Monte Carlo yourself, which should be on screen now. It's really easy to do, so I'd urge you to try it out. Now, once you've done all of this, calculated your 85th percentile time for a single story, and even forecast with Monte Carlo, what you'll most likely discover is that they aren't good enough. Everything's taking too long. So you need to find out why. So what you'll do next is calculate your flow efficiency. This is just a simple calculation, story active time divided by cycle time. But the result of this will help you understand where to start looking to improve your process. Now, flow efficiency is a whole video in its own right, which should be on screen now or in the links below. But flow efficiency will help you understand how to reduce your cycle times to help the team perform better. Now, after you've done all of this, you'll want to ensure that your cycle times stay low, as well as keeping your Monte Carlo forecasts accurate. Now, with virtually the same data that you've already collected, you can easily create one of the most important charts you've possibly never heard of. I'd like to introduce you to, drumroll please, an aging chart, or more precisely, an aging work in progress chart. Now, this aging chart is critical to understand, as it will show you when a story is in danger of breaking its forecast. It gives you a visual representation of how your sprint is going in ways that burn-down charts simply can't. And if you'd like to hear my take on story points, velocity and burn-downs, then there's a link to that in the description below. Now, an aging chart gives you the ability to take action at the right time. I think of it more like a crystal ball, letting you see what the future holds, and used daily, and I'd recommend it's reviewed at the daily stand-up, will keep your forecasts on track and your cycle time low. And I've done a detailed video on what aging charts are, how to create one, and how they can be used with an Excel template so you can modify it for use with your own data, which should be on screen now or in the description below. So I think we can already start to see that the Scrum Master should be a very busy bunny indeed. And remember, this is an iterative process. It's not a do it once and forget, it's a do it once and repeat, 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 inspect and adapt. Right, I also mentioned the qualitative approach on how the Scrum Master can help the team deliver value. But before I get into that, if you're getting any value from this, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. It truly does help the channel out and allows me to bring you more and better content. Okay, back to the qualitative approach. So, you've captured all this data and analysed it, and the resulting changes needed are where the qualitative part comes in. And I believe this is why you need to be a servant leader and where those skills will really need to shine. And this is because we're now in the realm of dealing with human beings, people. We're not talking about data anymore. There'll be difficult conversations to have, emotions and behaviours to deal with, relationships to build or strengthen, and how you handle this will decide how effective you can be and, crucially, how you can help the team deliver value. Now, from the analysis you've done on all the data you've collected, there could be a number of things that you need to help the team on. And you'll need to do this through training, mentoring and coaching. One of these is likely to be understanding where all the epics and stories come from. They don't grow on trees, and thinking that the product owner will provide them all on a plate simply never happens, so don't fall into that trap. You'll need to help the team understand user, process and journey mapping. And using this technique, you can build up a set of epics and user stories. And I've got a video on exactly how to do this in the description below. And you'll also need to help the team understand what the minimum viable product, the MVP, looks like. Again, check the videos in the description below. Also, you'll need to work with the product owner to help them create and manage the backlog and use prioritization techniques to order the backlog. Your product owner will likely need a lot of help and support with this, and as a Scrum expert, that's your responsibility to help and train. Now, remember, it's a partnership. You don't take orders from the product owner, and if you do, your role will diminish, as will your ability to help the team. And the next thing you're likely to run into is that the team stories are too large or complex. So you're going to need to run sessions and workshops on what makes a good user story. Remember the who, the what and the why. I'm not so concerned about the format, but don't forget the 3 C's. Card, conversation, confirmation. We don't want requirement specifications. What we want is enough to be able to start, and through collaboration and conversation during the sprint, we arrive at the right outcome. And that brings us to acceptance criteria. Just needs to be enough to know when to stop development. You could use behavioural driven development, given when then, but remember, we don't want 2 pages of scenarios, we just need enough. Anything more is just wasted time. Use techniques like invest. So a story should be independent, negotiable, valuable, estimatable, small and testable. And story splitting to validate whether the story's in a good place. And of course, you need to ensure story refinement sessions happen regularly. Remember, you always need more time than you think for this activity. Now, getting your backlog in shape, ordered and having good quality stories is great and obviously very important, but you need to consider what done looks like. So you'll need to work with the team to create not only your definition of done, but your definition of ready. Have it visible and clearly understood. Check the description below for my video on how to do this. Another issue you're likely to discover is that the team are working on too many things at the same time. So you need to work with the team to limit your work in progress. It might sound counterintuitive, but you need to reduce the number of things you work on in order to complete them faster. Now you can do this in a number of ways in Scrum, limiting your sprint backlog, but also putting WIP limits on key workflow states such as in progress. You'll also need to help reduce the team's context switching. Now when you're constantly swapping from one task to another, you lose time, but it also increases anxiety, leading to lower quality. And you need to identify all of the handoffs or queues that you have in your process. This is one of the cheapest ways to increase flow. For example, perhaps you have some compliance process that takes days to complete by people outside of the team. This is a handoff or a queue. It's your responsibility as a Scrum Master to raise the issue and work with the right people to remove or reduce them. You'll probably also need to help the team reduce their batch sizes. So what's that? Well, this could be reducing the team's sprint duration from 4 weeks to 2 or possibly 1, or it could be reducing the size of their work, so smaller epics and user stories. It helps increase feedback and reduces variability, all of which lead to better understanding and a reduction in overheads. Now, I've got a video on how to increase your flow and supercharge your Scrum delivery with the top 5 things you need to do, which is in the description below. And of course, an essential requirement is that we have great engagement with our product owner as well as our stakeholders. And this is something you need to definitely champion. So you need to work with them and find ways to strengthen or build relationships with the team. Without their constant input and feedback, while you might be delivering something every sprint, does it have any value? If there's no value, then what is the point? Now, I've got a video on how to build better relationships and engagement with stakeholders in the description below, so please check that out for some tips. Now, talking about value, remember our guiding question: what can you do today to help the team deliver value? So we need feedback from our product owner, stakeholders and the team. So how do we do that? We use our Scrum ceremonies to stand up and review. First and foremost, they're for feedback, to gain understanding about the value of what we're delivering. They're not simply a status update and a show and tell. And we'll use our retrospective to inspect and adapt what we're doing to improve. Remember, the retro needs to be a safe space where the team and only the team can talk in an open and transparent way. You've probably heard the expression, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, this needs to be true of the retro as well. Otherwise, you'll get little value from it. Now, I do want to point out that this isn't a linear process. I'm not saying do the quantitative elements first and then apply the qualitative changes. They can, should and must be done in parallel. But the quantitative analysis will help you understand which of the qualitative changes are a priority. Okay, I mentioned there was a warning about the quantitative approach, and here it is. Be aware that data is cold. It has no feelings. Don't just take the data at face value. You've got to observe what is going on within the team. And does that data truly reflect that? At first, it almost certainly won't. So remember that when you're presenting your beautiful Monte Carlo forecast, confidently predicting when you're going to finish your work. There's a lot of work that needs to go into accurate forecast. It's not simply data mining. So hopefully this will give you some food for thought. Now, this isn't all a Scrum Master should do, but they are very good basics. And if you get these right, you'll be a good Scrum Master adding value. Apply a quantitative and a qualitative approach and answer the question every day, how can you help the team deliver value? And you'll be well on your way to becoming a great Scrum Master. And as you're still here, don't forget to check out my video on cycle times, percentiles and Monte Carlo to get started on your data journey. Okay, that's it for this one. Stay humble and I will see you next time.